So most people think that a meniscus tear happens by accident, but that's often just not the case. Instead, it's best to think of your meniscus tear as a consequence of something else. And naturally trying to figure out what that something else is will help you go a long way to recovering quickly from your meniscus injury, but also substantially decrease the risk of anything like this coming back again in the future. And for me, clinically as a physiotherapist, we need to stop thinking of your meniscus tear as a knee problem. Yes, a part of your knee has become injured or damaged, but from a broader perspective, if there are restrictions above your knee through your hips or below your knee through your ankles, then without you realizing it, your meniscus tear is likely to be the last straw, not just that your knee was bad or vulnerable when it shouldn't be. So in this video, I want to take you through 4 really simple exercises that you can do today that will help you better understand what aspect of your hip or ankle may have set your meniscus up to fail in the way that it did. And if you are a member of the channel, there'll be an extended cut of this video where I want to go through one really simple strength exercise that's really helpful for meniscus tears and how you can scale that appropriately to make sure that you can do this at any point throughout your meniscus tear rehab. For those who don't know, the meniscus is essentially the shock absorbing tissue that sits within the 2 bones of your knee. It's worth remembering that your knee joint is typically designed to be a hinge joint, and it doesn't necessarily tolerate lateral movements or rotational twisting and grinding that go through that knee. The large majority of meniscal tears are sustained by a compression and a rotation through that knee, whether it be from an accident or a movement or a fall or a twist, that immediately exceeded the meniscus's ability to tolerate that load. And as I mentioned at the top of the video, instead of blaming the accident or the moment in time, what's always important to remember that that moment was most likely the last straw, or the moment that exposed the way that your leg had been functioning for however long up until that point. Looking at how you squat can help us uncover some of the hidden causes of why your knee became injured, where there's potentially a world where it may not have if the circumstances were different. And for me, the things I look out for when assessing how someone moves via a squat is I want to pay very close attention to the direction that your feet point, but also what happens to your knees as you squat down. Because if you are someone that when you look in the mirror, you look down, or you look back on a video that you've taken of yourself, if you notice that your feet turn out, or as you squat down, you see that your knee wants to cave in if your foot turns out. If you feel like your heels lift up, if you feel like you have to lean forward a lot as you get down lower, or you feel the risk of falling back becomes greater the lower down you get. Any one of these symptoms can speak to a hidden restriction somewhere in your lower leg. Typically, if your feet turn out, perhaps your ankles are restricted. If you squat down and you feel like your knees start to cave in on the way down or on the way back up again, yes, they can be associated with some gluteal weakness, but for a lot of people, that can actually mean that you're missing some hip rotational range of motion, and your knee caving in is essentially just going around that restriction. Same thing with the ankle. And in the process of your body having to work around that range of motion as opposed to using and going through that range of motion, the knee is the thing that gets loaded up differently over time. We introduce more rotation through the system so your body can work around a restriction because it can't go through the restriction thanks to the path of least resistance. So if you have torn your meniscus and you're considering surgery, or you've had surgery, or you just want to conservatively manage this, it's absolutely important to go through all the boring, monotonous rehab programs of strengthening your knee and getting your flexibility back around the knee, settling down the pain, load management, all of those sorts of things. But when you feel better, there's absolutely no guarantee that somewhere down the track you're not going to expose that already slightly more vulnerable meniscus post-injury this time and suffer another issue down the track. And the first exercise we want to go through is the banded ankle stretch to see if you've got some restrictions through that ankle joint. Ankle joint restrictions are clearly the most common issue that I see with people that have a meniscal tear. Your body will always go around that by keeping your foot straight, dumping your knee in and going around it, or going straight but turning your foot out to achieve the same thing. So this banded ankle stretch is often a very important exercise for anyone with any meniscal issues to do to create a better environment for that meniscus to exist within. And essentially how this looks is we'd like you to grab a power band, which is the complete circular band. We want you to tie it to something, so you loop it around and hook it through and then pull it through in this way. So I've got one set up down here. We want the band just below your ankle bones at the base of your leg. From this point, we want you to stretch the band out as far as you feel comfortable and then stepping past that with your other leg. The idea here is we want you to bend that back ankle as far as you feel comfortable, and you can either hang out here for 30 seconds to 2 minutes, or if it feels okay on your knee, you can gently oscillate in and out of that range for, again, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 2 minutes. Now, if you have a genuinely sore knee at the moment, there is a position that you can get into where you're putting all the tension through your ankle, and you haven't turned it into a basic lunge or a small squat. Make sure that you're trying to find the pressure through your ankle and get the exercise to load you up in that way. The main thing that a lot of people do wrong with this exercise is, as we mentioned before, if you run into a stiff ankle, the tendency for your body will be to take the path of least resistance inwards. So a lot of people end up going into this direction, where in actual fact, with your feet straight, if you keep your big toe on the ground and rotate your entire leg outwards, you should aim to go more in this direction rather than this direction. You won't go as far, but naturally that is the point. Hang out here, oscillate in and out of this range for, again, 60 seconds, 2 minutes, whatever you feel comfortable doing. Once you've done this, you should immediately feel lighter and looser in your ankle straight away. It may feel a little bit tender if you haven't done something like this before, but if you're doing it in a respectful way and a way that isn't irritating your knee symptoms, when you perform some squats again, you should feel that it's easy to get down there, perhaps with less knee pain, because we're allowing your knee to be loaded up more optimally in a way that you may not have realized you weren't doing before. And then once you've done that, we can move towards a very basic calf muscle stretch. So the reason why a calf muscle stretch may be invaluable for you is that a lot of people don't realize that your calf muscle travels across the back of your knee to attach into the base of your thigh bone. And this is important for a number of reasons, one of which is that when you have a meniscal tear, specifically one that's around the back of the knee, that posterior horn, it can prompt the calf muscle over the top to become tight to help compensate. But on top of that, one of your calf muscles, that gastrocnemius muscle, also travels all the way down and then crosses the ankle as well. So if you have some ankle joint restrictions that you've exposed with the banded ankle stretch, we also want to try and kill two birds with one stone here, where we're looking for a symptomatic treatment, but also one that hopefully improves the underlying mechanics of your leg to load up that knee better. Doing a calf muscle stretch off a step can be a really potent exercise to try. And as you would expect, it's very basic. We want you to be up onto a step, have the balls of your foot on the edge of the step. You are welcome to wear shoes if you want to. Gently dropping your back heel down as far as you feel comfortable. You can gently rotate your leg outwards a little bit while trying to keep your feet straight, or rotate your leg inwards to bias different parts of that calf muscle. Wherever you found that tightness, you need to find a way to engage that tightness, to tense it up, to activate it. Hold this for 5 to 10 seconds so that when you stop doing that and you let go, that tissue will physically give to some degree straight away, which means you may feel you can go further into the stretch immediately. But then want to keep repeating that process. Tense your calf up, make that tight spot work for 5 to 10 seconds. When you relax, it'll give, it'll then feel a little bit looser than it did before. Keep repeating this until you either stop making change or you feel you get sick of it, making sure that you pay close attention to how your specific knee pain feels. We don't want to do anything that irritates it or annoys it, and if this doesn't, you should immediately feel that it's looser. But when you come back to a basic squat again, you may then feel like that side feels a little bit lighter and a little bit looser and hopefully less tender straight away. And then once we've focused on the tissue below that knee, we then want to start to go looking for the tissue above that knee through the front of your thigh and through the rotational musculature of your hips. And as I mentioned, one of the major hip restrictions that I find with a lot of people with meniscal issues is they tend to lack a lot of hip external rotation. And when you're squatting or running or jumping and you're missing the ability to keep your foot straight and externally rotate your leg outwards to create strength and stability in that shape, you are far more likely to end up dumping inwards into a more hip internal rotation position. Again, changing the way that you load up that entire knee and the meniscus that sits within that. So in the spirit of trying to encourage more hip external rotation to get that knee out on a fixed foot that's pointing forwards, there are a million different ways that you can do this, but we want you to do a hip external rotation stretch in something that looks like this in sitting. Now, obviously you can do this on the floor via the pigeon pose. You can do this standing and put your leg up on a bench if it's feeling a little bit uncomfortable for you. The idea with this is if you can externally rotate your hip and being up nice and tall from your hip, keeping your back straight, hinging forward as far as you feel comfortable until you can find some tightness in that back pocket area at the back of your hip. We then want to go looking towards your knee or towards your foot to again see which particular direction gives you the best access to your muscular tightness back there. Same thing as the calf stretch. We want to find a way to tense up that gluteal tightness, squeeze it for 5 to 10 seconds. When you relax, it'll give a little bit. You should then be able to go further into the stretch, again, without bending your back and overcompensating. Back stays straight, hinging from your hip, hunt for where it feels the tightest, squeeze that tightness, relax, it'll give, go forward. Keep repeating that process again until you either stop making change or you get sick of it. Now, obviously, if your knee feels uncomfortable in this position, if getting you into this position because you're lacking some hip range forces you to jam up your knee to get your foot up, a great way to compensate for that is to support your knee in this position. Take some of the pressure out of it and then still do the same shapes as before. Make sure that you're not exacerbating your knee symptoms. But if you feel like it's a little bit uncomfortable, just know that the more that this frees up, the more comfortable this may feel in a relatively short space of time. And then once you spend some time doing that, what you should find is when you stand up again and you practice your squats again, you might find that it's easier to keep your knee out and avoid it dumping inwards, changing the way that you loaded that meniscus from above. And then once you've spent some time working on some of that rotational range of motion, we now want to go after some of the muscular tightness at the front of your hip, down through the front of your thigh, that may also be contributing to that deep meniscal pain inside your knee. And so the fourth of these mobility exercises is the couch stretch. Now, if you're a subscriber to the channel, you'll know that this is an exercise that I hold in high regard. It tends to hit a lot of the hidden restrictions that people accrue from spending a lot of time sitting day to day. And to perform the couch stretch, all you need is a chair or a couch. You can definitely do this on the floor, but it is more advanced. It's worth noting that with this couch stretch, it does ask us to have your knee into the back corner of the chair. And this is obviously based on the assumption that being in this position feels okay for your knee. For what it's worth, the pressure from the exercise sits above your knee. You shouldn't feel like it's directly onto your knee in case you feel like that is irritating for you. If it is, try a towel or a cushion underneath your knee just to see if you can tweak it a little bit so you can do this more successfully. But again, pressure goes above your knee. We want you to be in a position where you bend forward, get your knee right in the back there, keeping your back straight. We're looking to extend up as far as you feel comfortable until you find a really generous tightness at the front of your hip, potentially down through the front of your thigh. Same as all the other muscular stretches we've done, once you've found that tightness, we can give you a squeeze into that tight musculature. It's the PNF stretching model. Hold it for 5 to 10 seconds. When you relax, it'll give. You should then find you can come a little bit further back into the stretch than you could before. Keep repeating that process. 5 to 10 seconds, relax. It'll go further. Do it until you stop making change or you get sick of it. You might find that you can only come up to this position before you feel a lot of genuine tightness through the front of that thigh. That's fine. Start here, tense, relax. Eventually, over the next few days and weeks, you'll get up to the stage where this becomes really comfortable for you. And then you can ditch the chair, get rid of that chair, and then progress down to doing the exact same thing in this position on the floor, looking for the same tightness that you did before. But ultimately, once you've performed that stretch and you feel like you've fed a lot of slack into your knee from above, then immediately come back, perform your squats again, and you should hopefully feel that it is lighter and looser and potentially less symptomatic than what it was before. Now, it's always worth noting that if your pain is improving, we aren't necessarily healing your meniscus tear any more than what it was previously, but we're just creating a more optimal and safe environment for it to function within without all these hidden handbrakes changing the way that you load it up and potentially annoying it in the same way that it did for it to become injured in the first place. And if you are a member of the channel, the next part of this video is going to go through a really simple strength exercise that is highly appropriate for any meniscal pain patient and also a great way to help improve the strength of your hips and thighs as you go through your rehab process. So what I ultimately want you to take from this video is that by all means we need to settle down and rehab that meniscal tear. But at the same time, we need to have that broader perspective to understand that how the rest of your leg was functioning before you hurt yourself may have been directly responsible for why you hurt yourself in the way that you did. So please give each one of those mobility exercises a try. And if you remember, give the strength exercise a try. And let me know in the comments down below how you felt each one of those fit into the puzzle that is the function of your lower leg. I highly encourage you to think of your torn meniscus as a consequence of something else. Very valid and very real in its own right, but it's actually just a piece of a broader puzzle which you may never have thought about until hopefully you saw a video like this one. And if you can get to work on improving those peripheral issues, you may absolutely speed up how quickly you feel your meniscus feels better. But more importantly, when it does feel good, we don't want this to happen again. It wasn't bad luck. It's less about what you did in the moment and more so what you took into that moment from before. And if you found this video helpful and insightful, please consider leaving a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. We're very close to 100,000 subscribers. Please help me get there before the end of the year. If you want that extended cut, please consider becoming a member. It is a fantastic way to help support me and the channel. It allows me to keep making videos like this for you guys. But again, at the end of the day, thank you for watching. I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you next time.